and of course the right information that you need. Welcome, it's 8 o'clock. Good morning to you, and this is the headline news review, a part of the Floor Breakfast Show where we take a look at some of these trending national headlines and we discuss them. Also, provide a platform for you to react to some of these trending national headlines by taking the position or passing comment on some of these stories this morning. All you need to do is give us a call on 0807 777 9927. 0807 777 9927. A lot of interesting stories to touch on this morning, but hey, let's quickly say hello to Nicholas Warrenoye, who joins us live this morning. Nicholas, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning. How's it going?
Right. Yeah. So thank you.
All right. Well, let's dive into the conversations we have this morning. But before that, let me remind you that we're streaming live on Facebook at Floor FMNG and on YouTube at Floor FM 927. Now, this is the conversation about the Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi II. On Wednesday, he criticized the handling of the economy by President Bola Tinubu's administration, asserting that things are not being done correctly. And then he also went ahead to say that the government had not treated or acted like a friend to him.
All right, take a listen to the audio excerpts first so you react.
I've chosen not to speak about the economy and the reforms or to even explain anything because if I explain, it would help this government, and I don't want to help the government.
That's Emir of Kano, Sanusi II, saying, well, he doesn't want to speak about the reforms of the country, and if he does, the government will, take on it, but he doesn't want to.
Yeah, well, that is a very characteristic of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, the Emir of Kano. Typically of him, he's unusually brave. You have to give him that. There are so many things that ordinarily a traditional ruler shouldn't say, but he doesn't quite give. He doesn't. He says it as he sees it. The Sanusi Lamido Sanusi that we knew as a CBN governor and the Emir of Kano are the same thing. He hasn't learned to differentiate between the two. Not that. For someone like me, that I'm giving to more of this liberal way of doing things, that is quite salutary, But on the conservative level, a lot of people might pick bones with him, and that accounts for why he's almost at all times in hot waters. You understand? And then I particularly think that another aspect of that, reflects that he's angry. He is very, very angry. Considering the fact that if you look at his career profile, he's more of a Lagos boy than even a core northerner. He worked within the banking sector in Lagos. He has a lot of friends from the southwest, and there are talks that he's quite he's on talking terms with the current president. They are kind of like close. So, and considering what has happened, the emirate, tussle between himself and Adedayo. I think his expectation is that the president should have reined in, on those reflexes, those government reflexes that tended to create a chaos within the emirate, and I absolutely agree with him on that. I believe that it's shown where you have two emirs in one town, a town that is as volatile as Kano, very strategic both politically, economically, and socially, culturally. The kind of ding dong that you have, in the last couple of almost a year now, it's quite not salutary. It doesn't it doesn't paint the government of the day in good light. It doesn't put them in good light. And of course, I equally know too that. On the side of the president, that is, I'm speaking about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think somehow his hands are tied in this matter. At least one has to be balanced in this, because you see, anything that has to do with North, especially at Kano, you have to be very, very careful. Very, very careful. If you recall, his first, in this first installment, there was that ding-dong. There was a very serious controversy about who would be the emir. Considering the fact that he just left, the CBN the governor yet position under a very cloudy circumstance. A lot of security agencies took interest in it because that kind of a person becoming an emir, of course, definitely you have people in the security who show concern, who would talk to the state governor at that time, who happened to be in the opposition at that time. So that ding dong, so he has always been in controversies, and usually mostly for the right reasons. That is the simple truth, because he's the kind of person, when he sees things, he says it, even though sometimes some of those things can be a bit way over the bar, but by and large, that is the Lamido Sanusi that and he's there, and we just have to live with it.
Well, if you listen to that that audio, towards the end of it, it says that well, if this government doesn't act like a friend, to him, he too will not act like a friend. That's just to bring that to your attention.
Yeah.
And if you look at it again from the body language, and then if you analyze his statements a bit further, one can deduce to say, like you mentioned, it sounds a bit angry.
He is angry.
But if you look at it now, you say that this president is handling the economy badly, and you expect them to be friends with you. Isn't that shooting himself in the foot?
Well, you see, it's a bit of both. You understand? Well, this is more like an advice to the emir. I think as an economist, he should try and bring less of sentiment, emotion, into his reaction to government policy, because what it would then mean is that whatever you say, you are speaking from the point of view of anger, and not from rational, forensic, mind that we know that you have. You understand? Yes, a lot of things are wrong with the policies that have been read out by the federal government. A lot of things, but I would prefer you give me something from a very cool, calculated, point of view, rather from emotion. That is, since you have said this now, so anything you say henceforth, people like me will look at it from the point of view that you are angry. So that is why you are talking. So I can't, to a very large extent, I will not take it very seriously, because I'm a serious news analyst. I tend to want to, look at the whole thing, look at the whole picture, and perhaps make a projection as to what I think should be. You understand? So I think he realized that. But one other thing again, I have one or two encounters with him. When he did this debt issue, that this non-performing debt thing that he did. I think when he first came on board, I think the first meeting we had with him, the man came out and he was, I recall asking him a question that, to what extent has he done the profiling of those debts? And this was a long time ago. There was what he said was, look, my friend, I understand what you are trying to do, but the fact is, when something is wrong, when you have crossed over a certain threshold, regardless of whatever reason why you cross the threshold, the fact is you cross the threshold. You understand? That is the kind of Sanusi Lamido that I want to see talking. You understand? Not the kind of Sanusi Lamido that says the government of the day is not his friend. For God's sake, the government of the day cannot be your friend, because that state is in the hands of NPP, and the principalities within NPP are opposition to the federal government. You understand? So, and you have made yourself to be a very influential person. You understand? And you have been reinstated by that that setup. So definitely, what you are going to have is the federal government, who is in the ruling party, will look at you with hostility. Even if the federal government does not do so, the hawks within the presidency, the hawks within the power, structure, will see you as an opponent. So that is just the fact of the matter. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Another thing he said was, unlike in the past, when he offered economic advice to the federal government, he would not do the same for Tinubu's administration. In the past, when he offered such advice, were they taken? And this present administration, did they ask for, economic advice, so to say? Yeah.
Well, you see, I'm sorry to have to say this, but, I think that I don't know whether is there something wrong with, the way he recalls things? Because if I recall clearly, it is those same advice that got him in trouble. You understand? giving all those, what the government of the day called unsolicited advice. You see, there is this thing that, a northerner once told me. Now, you see that thing those emirs, the emirs put across, that shawl, they put her hair. They said it is both it's part of a dressing and it has a symbol. What it simply means is that when you put that thing in your mouth, it means you should speak less as a traditional ruler. That is what they said. That is the culture. So the moment you take up that mantle to be the emir, then you speak less. You understand? You are not an economic activist. You are not a policy wonk, as it were. You are a traditional ruler, and you concern yourself with traditional ruling. You understand? If not, there will be trouble. You understand? So it's as simple as that. Look, we have to look at issues as they are. You understand? Right here we were talking about Farotimi, and I took his side because he is a lawyer, he's an activist. That is what he's meant to do. He's a gadfly. You understand? But a traditional ruler is a separate rule entirely. You can't mix the two. It's combustible. You get my point? So that is, and I think that, coming this far to make that kind of thing is like drawing a battle line, and if I know Sanusi for what he really is, we are not hearing, this is not the last we are going to hear from him.
All right, I was just going to ask you again on this conversation. Well, on that, it's before the Emir Adebayo has also challenged that court ruling. It says it's going to challenge the appeal court judgment and take it up to the Supreme Court level. So let's not preempt the courts and leave that out of our conversation.
Yeah,
we'll let the courts deal with that.
Yeah,
and whatever the outcome is, of course. So we will be here to analyze it and hopefully bring back some of these audio tape and replay again, whichever way it goes. But I want to ask you, as a professor of economics, a brilliant Nigerian, no doubt. A lot of Nigerian elite and business elite respect Emir Sanusi, and of course not just on the Nigerian surface, African continent, and globally he's well recognized now, and a traditional ruler on the other side. Now, with all of the economic lapses, policy lapses that he has seen or he has observed, shouldn't he play a true Nigerian first? Or expect that, well, I'm the big figure. The government should come to me.
Playing the patriotic Nigerian, as you try to put it, could come in various ways. I understand that, with that position he has, there are back channels that you can talk to government. Back channels that does not require you, putting your voice openly, so that it forms a basis of public discourse, thereby embarrassing the government. You understand? As a traditional ruler, that is one channel. He is not bound to do that. Please let us get that clear. He has chosen this step. To some people it's quite commendable. You understand? But you see, when the backlash comes, I won't expect him to complain. That is on the one hand. Then again, you see, we have to look at it that at this point where we are in Nigeria, can we really say that people who have voices, people who have voices shouldn't speak? That is another question we need to consider, because as it is right now, we actually need people who, when they speak, government listens and government quakes. To weigh in on some of these issues that we keep on talking day in, day out on this platform, several fora, on the newspapers, everywhere, that concerns the life of Nigerians, the life of Nigeria itself. So these are the two ways we can look at it. We can only be dialectical in matters like this. But as for a person like me, yes, I'm willing to be sympathetic to him, but I must equally spell out the consequences too. You understand? So that is...
Which are?
The consequences that, okay, you are taking on the government of the day. It's not going to be easy. Go and ask for Daily Farotimi. You are daring the people who own Nigeria.
All right, well, let's move away from that conversation and onto this one between PDP and APC. The Bika's gunshots erupt near Edo Tribunal. In a viral video, a youth wearing a PDP face cap emerged from an unregistered white Toyota Hilux and began firing into the air and was, causing panic among passerby. Now, what would have caused this? And, well, the sounds of the gunfire echoed into the venue of the Edo Election Petition Tribunal and caused a really tense atmosphere.
Well, you know, who gains from that kind of altercation, well, that kind of an incident? You see, when you're solving a crime, sometimes the first thing you ask is who profits from the death of somebody, from a bad incident, who profits? That should be your first suspect. Usually, you walk it down from there. You know, a man comes out and wears PDP cap, wears a wears face cap. You know, that proclaims that he's one party and crosses mayhem. You know, the first impression is to point fingers at that party, right? And they are at the tribunal where they want to upturn, you know, the electoral verdict, you know, that puts an APC there. So it is no-brainer to know that this is an orchestration and we are not pointing fingers at anybody. You understand? So I think that you know, the Edo State Police Command should look beyond, you know, the ordinary. And of course, we have been privy to a lot of stories about some highly connected people, you know, state agents, you know, orchestrating crisis. You know, in situations like there have been allegations, you know, to that effect, to a great deal. You understand? So you have this very, very strong allegation that sometimes, you know, players within, you know, state agents, you know, orchestrate this kind of crisis, you know, to put a bad name on people they are trying to silence. We've had that allegation over and over again, though it has not been conclusively proven. You understand? So I think that the police, as much as possible, for the sake of Edo people, you know, shouldn't just act rashly. They should take time to trace those way. And moreover, when you look at even the logistics, you know, when you look at that report, that the person shot into the air, you know, for quite a while, and the police were nowhere to be found. Why? You understand? Because normally, you see, when you do a kind of security, you know, when you do a SWOT analysis, that is for, you know, in case there is danger and things like that, some of the things you look at is what event could precipitate violence. You understand? A police should be able to preempt, you know, an electoral tribunal in a keenly contested election where there are controversies is a flashpoint of trouble for anybody that is willing to do crime fighting. So I expected that there should have been plainclothes as well as, you know, uniformed policemen, to specially prepared for incidences such as this. So when you have that kind of person, you take off, apprehend that person, and ask him who his sponsors are.
Well, talking about the Edo people and looking at the Edo politics now, it's running to about 2 or 3 months since Monday Okwebolo, you know, was elected into office, and he took the oath of office to defend the Edo people, and of course, you know, to bring Edo to more prosperity. And if you look at this, is this a total distraction to that government, or more like we have to see more of this, you know, tribunal back and forth, like we've seen in some states in some years ago, if I recall, that of Ekiti State, where we had you know, the former governor Adedayo Fayose, you know, back and forth today, and then you know, being removed and being, you saw that in your state at some points within between even though they were different, you know, scenarios, Ladaja and the late Alawakala and all of that. So is this more like shouldn't have even developed more in democratic, you know, practices and all that? Well, you're coming having tribunal cases on the side, and you know, governance will go on. Would this totally disrupt governance?
You see, ordinarily, even when you pose a challenge to electoral verdict, it's a distraction to the government of the day. It's even if there are no cases of violence, you know, because now he has to deploy some resources. The governor has to deploy some resources personally, you know, to defend his his mandate. You know, so that is a distraction on its own. If you recall, you know, when former President Goodluck Jonathan lost his re-election bid, if you read his memoir, he did say that he had grounds to challenge the election, and he could have challenged it and perhaps won. You know, because at that time, you know, challenging it, he would still be in power, so he could tinker with a lot of things. to have his way at the end of the day. You understand? But he said that he personally, this is his personal philosophy, that we should put faith in the process rather than the outcome. You understand? That he trusted the process and decided to go. You understand? Because he doesn't want to distract, the new man that comes on board. So he would not have any excuse to say it's because of the distraction that, he derailed in his government promises and things like that. So that is quite salutary. But on the other hand too, sometimes you have to pose challenges to correct certain things. You understand? So that has to happen. So that is a challenge to electoral umpires and people in government to make sure that the system works very well. So we will always come back to that system of our electoral process. Let us make our electoral process more transparent so that issues of this kind of challenge does not even begin to arise in the first place. Then, speaking about Okpebholo himself, I think the biggest source of distraction to Okpebholo is Okpebholo himself. With the kind of policies that he has been doing, the kind of controversies that he's been wading into, even up to the extent that the Attorney General of the Federation had to speak to him sternly, about these local government issues. You understand? And if you look at it, you see, you keep on, blundering from one problem to the other. A few days ago, somebody, I was reading on Twitter, in a press release from the state government house, people were just circling errors as if that person didn't even go through WAEC. You understand? So there are certain things that I expected. I have been here defending him, that if he had gone through this, he have gone through that and things. But I expect that even if you have incapacitation in certain aspects, you should be able to compensate by getting people who will, fill up the space. Fill up the space for you. You understand? So that is my take, on this matter.
All right, thank you, Nicholas.
All right, let's move to this other conversation concerning the tariff hike for the telecoms. Tijani underscored the significant role of the telecommunication sector in Nigeria's economy, contributing 14 to 16% to the GDP, directly employing over 15,000 people and indirectly supporting around 500,000 people. And that's why it was talking about the hike shouldn't be more than 30 to 60% increment.
Okay, you see, that is vague. That figure, what he has given is vague. Between 30, it shouldn't be more than 30
to 60.
60%. So it could be 30, it could be 45
or 50.
It could be 55. It could be even 58%. You understand? 58% hike in tariff is significant, especially at this time that we are talking of economic hardship on Nigerians. It is very, very significant. Then I expect him to not just say that there will be hike. There are other outstanding issues on service delivery, drop calls, unclear signals, in cases where people make, they migrate you to a package that you did not subscribe for. In fact, there was a professor throughout last year, Professor
solicited messages.
Also, all those things. How are they going to address that? Because if we decide to, if we say, increase the tariff, but what are you giving us into? Are you going to improve on those services? Those are some of the issues that I think, the Honorable Minister should equally tax them. It's not just about hiking tariff. You hike tariff, because so that you can, but are you going to improve on your service delivery? What do we get in return? So this has always been the problem we have with our governance structure. More or less, it's like they are always on the side of people who want to exploit the common man. I was speaking of the case of, a professor. I don't want to mention his name on air, though he actually, he wrote about it on several newspapers. A retired professor in Ilorin here, he was wrongly migrated, to a wrong package, and consistently. In fact, at some point he brought me in. I had to, talk to a liaison within NCC on that matter. You understand? And the thing went on till as we speak. They didn't rectify the problem. You understand? So what happens to things like that? To what extent are the regulatory bodies able to control some of these guys? You understand? So at the end of the day, you tend to have these feelings that these guys just get together and say, okay, let's go and meet the minister and say we want to hike the tariff, and voila, they come out and they have their way. In fact, if you recall, the former minister, that digital economy minister, Pantami, you remember that controversy about the dog up tips and things like that. From what we get at, one of the reasons why they came out strongly that most of this, GSM, companies were behind that attack. They were the one who supplied those materials that was used to, heckle the minister to no end. And I learned that was one of the reasons why President Muhammadu Buhari insisted that, okay, yes, this is bad enough, but I know the motive why you brought this up. And that is why he chose not to remove him. You understand? So we've been hearing things like these guys have become a cartel kind of. They make one proposal, a policy proposal that does not favor the common man, and we don't get a quid pro quo.
Let me ask you this: how do you think? How much of input can the ordinary Nigerian have as to some of these decisions that's that is being made? Now there is an association for subscribers, national subscribers. There's a president for it. There's another association for it. I'm trying to get a good hold of the name right now. How much of intervention do they do on behalf of the subscribers, the telecom subscribers?
Near zero impact. They are just there as just window dressing, nothing more. Just to give the impression that we have people they can reach out to. Once they get their endorsement, they go on with what they are doing. See, the thing is that in a scale of 1 to 10, you understand, they will always have their way 8 times out of 10. In fact, 9 times out of 10. You understand? The only time when they don't have their way is when it rubs off on the interest of the powerful. You understand? Because you see those common men. You see the common people who use the tariff, who pay the tariff, are voiceless. Let us face it. They are voiceless. They can't. Their voice. Okay, can you go on strike, for instance, and say, okay, we are boycotting one particular line for 1 week unless they reverse something? Do you see that happening in Nigeria? But elsewhere it can happen. That if you are on so day, don't use their data. Don't call through their line. Use alternative line for 1 day. You see how much they will lose. They will reverse that thing that you are talking about. So until we begin to have that, has it ever happened in Nigeria? It has never happened. So once it has not happened before, you don't. You see, they know that this thing is not going to happen. So, but the moment you see that happening, then Nigerians are ready. You understand? Look at the case of NSAS. What happened? There were some reforms. You understand? Because at that point, the leaders, the police hierarchy, and the government, functionaries were forced to listen for the first time. You understand? Yeah, of course, a lot of negative things happened from there, but all the same, it's a way of just channeling frustration. So that's the thing.
All right. Nicholas, thank you a lot. Because of time, we just need to conclude for this morning. We're sure to pick it up again from there tomorrow, God willing. But within a minute, I would like to take your reaction to this particular one that has to do with the retired generals expressing worry and frustration over fresh terror attacks in Northeast.
Was that what we said yesterday? That was it before yesterday that we talked about that at some point you feel that this thing because I read a lot and I have traveled to conflict zones. I reported conflicts a great deal. So somehow you have an explanation why there is conflict. But in this instance, you don't even know why. They started from the issue of Islamization and things like that. Then, all of a sudden, it's not even about, you don't even hear religious rhetorics anymore. So the only thing you hear is about, okay, it's about the mining and all those things that are there. They are trying to dislodge the people and things like that. But then I think that at that level, there can be some talks that, okay, after all, talks ended the Niger Delta crisis. They brought them on board. Okay, you are frustrated. Yes, we know we have made some mistakes here. We are willing to rectify it. And you have an end to that insurgency. But in this instance, you don't even know what they want. You don't even know. all of a sudden you see that the military is taking an upper hand, and all of a sudden is a 360-degree change, having 40 people killed in one fell swoop, and there is recently another one again. It is quite disturbing, really.
Well, also because of our time, the air component of Operation Hadin Kai, that covers Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states, placed a ban on the use of drones. They said, it's been used, by by non-state actors and criminal elements for subversive activities. In a minute, or a few seconds, your reaction, because we're picking up from there tomorrow.
Well, they have
Is it a good decision?
It's a good decision. At least it's a temporary thing. Should be a temporary thing.
Thank you, Nicholas, for your time this morning. We're sure to be back again tomorrow, 8 to 8:30 a.m. While the views expressed by Nicholas is not in any way the position of Flow FM 92.7 or any of the staff therein, but solely as expressed, by him. My name is Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us.
Here to light up the city, 92.7.